ability to live stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X, which we just now sometimes got to get the train rolling a little late, but better late than never as we take a live look here from our SkyTrack network of cameras. A cool night for you folks, not just in Bardstown, but elsewhere across Wave Country, and perhaps seeing a little bit of a lull in the rain and those clouds. But rest assured, the storm tracking team letting us know that's not going to change anytime soon, at least for the foreseeable, short term, midterm, even extending into the 10-day forecast. So we're going to do a condensed version. Always appreciate your time as we take this opportunity to go over the big stories of the day. And we understand you've had your own busy day trying to juggle, all the different schedules if you've got to deal with the kids or things going on at work. And then on top of that, just trying to take things slow, measure yourself as you're going about town in this rain and not the nicest weather to do all this. So let's dive into perhaps one of the updates from the Wave News reporting team. And this has more so to do with the different perspectives of what JCPS's decision to come out of its multi-million-dollar budget entails. Because as there is a plan to move forward with eliminating specific jobs that in this case include elementary school bookkeepers, the president of the union who represents these workers says that these cuts could unfortunately open schools to risks of fraud or theft. We're talking about 61 school bookkeepers replaced by central office jobs, and then the salaries would look very different for the remaining JCPS employees who would be assigned these specific tasks. Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia Francescini talks to the union leader in this case as we assess all the different consequences that these decisions are only going to hurt students and families in her perspective.
As Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood delivered his State of the District address on Friday,
we are building a destination school district.
Nicole Humphrey patiently waited for a response JCPS told her she'd get the day before, whether elementary school bookkeepers would be spared from looming budget cuts. But now the future of these workers seems set in stone.
We were told by the district that they were not going to cut any positions that would affect the schools.
The district is set to get rid of 61 elementary school bookkeepers. And as a former bookkeeper herself, Humphrey says their absence will be hard to miss.
Those are the gatekeepers really of all money that flows within the schools. Without those people there, we look at theft, we look at fraud.
Bookkeepers are also in the front office, helping students and parents in need. Humphrey says cutting these positions will save JCPS $2.5 million, which barely makes a dent in the $188 million budget shortfall.
They are sacrificing some of the lowest paid, overworked employees in our entire school district to make sure that those that are sitting at the top still have their jobs without any changes.
Humphrey says her days are now spent putting out fires, helping principals and bookkeepers figure out their next steps, all while thinking there has to be a better solution.
For 2%, to save 2%, we are directly impacting our children and our schools.
And that was Fernando Garcia Francescini reporting there. Apparently, bookkeepers in this instance are only going to be cut at the elementary school level. Middle and high schools will get to keep their respective bookkeepers. And Humphrey, again, the AFSCME local chapter president there, talking about it goes to show, at least when you're discussing middle schools and high schools do get to keep these positions, that in itself perhaps is a case to argue that they are important jobs after all. It is a story that we'll continue to see whatever the next day impacts, consequences, fallout is going to be. So make sure to stay with us here on Wave News as we talk about all of that. Well, another update just in this afternoon. This is a pool company owner accused of defrauding customers around Louisville. Well, today we found out her sentence. This was dating back to around February 19th when Tracy Davenport pleaded guilty to charges about defrauding more than 50 customers over her pool business, and this is according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, the allegations against Davenport and her workers under her direction were to convince clients to sign a contract to get a pool and then pay a large down payment up front. Now, dating back to January 2023, Wave had been starting our reporting that tens of thousands of dollars are being paid by people to install pools, but they were never finished. Some orders were for more than over $100,000. Davenport Extreme Pools and Spas opened its doors around early 2019. They closed as a business in late 2022 because they ran out of money. Davenport, according to prosecutors, then used those funds for things other than what they were agreed for those services. We know Davenport pleaded guilty to bankruptcy fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. Her sentencing is now scheduled for May 20th. So that'll be the next big date to see just how much that is going to, entail. I guess we've been talking about a lot of different dates. But we are hearing from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying that Davenport is going to be required to pay no less than around just under $3.4 million in restitution. She's already faced other criminal cases in counties around Louisville, facing prison time for those prior convictions as well. So again, this will be something we'll flesh out a little bit more in the story with the Tracy Davenport decision. So make sure to stay with us on Wave News at 11 as we'll discuss that in much more detail. All right, so take a look at these pictures. Maybe you've likely seen this. It's being shared all over social media. And to think, perhaps if you can believe no one was seriously hurt or even killed by this, that is the silver lining for a lot of folks. And we're breaking down some new information about this scary dinner experiences for the people who were inside this Highlands restaurant on Saturday. In court today, we learned 4 people were inside this Kiwami Ramen when a guy police say was drunk behind the wheel, crashed his car through the side of the building. You see right there just the extent of the damage. Now, county prosecutors say, based on what they were able to find out from witnesses and the information from police, a pregnant woman was inside the restaurant and she had to go to the hospital too. Arrest documents we've read say 29-year-old Alexis Calvillo was intoxicated when he crashed into the restaurant. He doesn't have insurance. This morning in court, the county asked a judge to raise Calvillo's bond because they say he's a danger to the public. After the crash, police say he then struggled with officers, even threatening to kill them.
When the collision occurred, that the building actually struck them at their table. One of the victims is pregnant and was transported to the hospital for treatment. Our position is that this is an extremely dangerous situation. It's the county's motion to increase the bond to $25,000.
And so you heard the number there for the dollar figure, $25,000. The judge settled on a $7,500 bond, but Calvillo cannot drive until this case is over or not even have any contact with either the restaurant or the victims involved. Now, Kiwami, the restaurant, this branch is still closed. They have not answered questions. We've reached out, just curious if they have an opening date in mind. Might be still too soon to tell. But Calvillo, who is facing a long list of charges, is supposed to be back in court on March 10th. In another investigation, we've gotten some updates on LMPD says they arrested a 17-year-old almost 2 months after shooting happened outside a place called Lenny's Lounge, where we also know 4 people were hurt. Now, a reminder, since the suspect in this case is someone under 18, police don't share that person's name, but what we do know is he's facing 4 counts of assault and having a handgun as a minor. So again, this is a crime scene video we took the day it happened around January 4th at Lenny's Lounge. It's a members-only club in the Klondike neighborhood. We do know one of the victims of the 4 was also 17. The others were all young adults that range from ages 18 to 21. We reached out to get statements and input from leaders involved. We know Metro Councilwoman Josie Raymond told us the property owner canceled the lease. Lenny's Lounge moved out in mid-January, not long after that. And we also know a second person, a man named Ezekiel Dean, was arrested connected to the shooting, and his specific charges are assault and being a felon with a gun. Coming back in the studio, appreciate everyone connecting with us, whether that's on the Wave Now app from wherever you are watching, having downloaded the app, or connecting with us on Facebook, Twitch, X, and YouTube. For an example, people like Lee Cahill joining us here on the comments of the live stream. So appreciate Lee and all of you sticking with us around this time of night. This is now a bit of didn't want to miss the opportunity just to share some of the reporting that's being done by our partners in Washington, D.C. And this has to do with the situation in Iran, as President Trump warns that this joint offensive with the U.S. and Israel could drag on for weeks. And the death toll of American soldiers, Iranian civilians, and in between, that is also rising. This is a report from our Washington correspondent, Molly Martinez.
As a barrage of missiles volley across the skies of the Middle East, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is laying out the battle plan.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons.
U.S. Central Command confirming its first U.S. casualties, with the number expected to grow.
Sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is.
Many questions are unanswered. Chief among them, who will lead Iran now that the supreme leader is dead? Hegseth says that's up to the people. Maine Independent Senator Angus King isn't so sure.
I haven't yet seen what the end game is, what the next steps are. We've learned over the years that you can't do regime change from the air.
Another question, how was the president once again allowed to supersede congressional powers of war?
And this president has shown a pattern from the very beginning of this administration of acting unilaterally, of acting without the consent of Congress.
Senator King says lawmakers are slated to vote on a war powers resolution this week, notably after the fact. King says he'll vote for it, but a new CNN poll shows 6 out of 10 Americans disapprove of this war. In Washington, I'm Molly Martinez.
Another quick look at our Skytrack network of cameras and traffic, looking like everyone out there in this corner of Bardstown may be where they are wanting to be at this time of night, around 8:22. We're going to take a quick break to reset and share more stories. In fact, the previews of the things we're working on for tonight's newscast at 11 with our reporting team, Julie Richardson, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned, letting us know that there's going to be a lot to watch out for when it comes to rain. So we'll be right back after this. Thanks for joining us here in the Wave Now studio, folks. Here, when we do the live stream, it's also a really good opportunity to let you know that, yes, we are working this late at night. And as much as we enjoy the opportunity to run here in the studio, pop on the live stream and let you know about, the stories that are important that you're probably wanting to catch up on at home and just decompressing from the day. We're still working and putting together our reports for when we do the newscasts at 11. And with that in mind, this has been an ongoing investigation by especially our Julie Richardson. It's a story she's been following very closely and checking in with families of loved ones who were buried in what's pretty much now the neglected Louisville Cemetery, but they're finally getting a reply from the people in charge. In this case, we've met these partners turned strangers, or I'm sorry, this is the other way around. These strangers turned partners. I sometimes get my metaphors mixed up there. But in essence, coming in to use their own lawn care equipment, just trying to tidy up what they feel like should be a pretty sacred space, the final resting place, and what was paid for to be there for their loved ones. Julia, in her latest reporting, she managed to check in with the neighborhood, or I should say the Louisville Cemetery Improvement Association, because they've now finally heard from one of the co-owners, and at least getting some sense that they're willing to recommit to hiring some staff, some caretakers who were laid off around at least late September of 2025. And so this is part of Julia's interview with Tammy Fletcher, the president of this Improvement Association.
We're going to work with him to make sure that anything that needs to be done, maintenance, equipment, gas for the equipment that's out there, anything that needs to be done, we're going to work together with him. So it's kind of like a partnership has taken place, and I'm grateful for that.
So perhaps a little bit of extra gratitude for the folks who just simply want someone to take care of and be diligent about maintaining the grounds. As you can see, perhaps a little lack of care and just some debris, scraps of things that shouldn't be where they are. They've been trying to reach out to the Attorney General's office for some kind of recourse to the Kentucky Historical Society. They tried to establish, even considering becoming a nonprofit, to get legal representation, see what they could do to step in. But it seems like they're finally getting some assurances or some answers from who we believe is at least a team of owners responsible for the Louisville Cemetery property. So hope you join us around 11 o'clock tonight, as Julia will have her full report with not just perspective from the families of this Improvement Association, but at least statements of what one of the co-owners is wanting to do or says they are willing to do to make things right. So we're going to look forward to that a little bit later tonight at Wave News at 11. Now, looking at the calendar, March 2nd, for some of you tuning in, it may be a significant date or an anniversary, because back in 2012, you might remember, that was the EF4 tornado when it hit Henryville. It hit Clark County, left a path of just destruction in its wake. The high school in particular was severely damaged back then, as were homes and businesses. So our Wave News reporter, David Mattingly, decided today was an appropriate day to drive back up to Henryville. And he found that the people who remember that day in person vividly, and they lived through that moment, it still brings us a mix of sadness and relief.
14 years is a long time, but not long enough for vivid memories of the Henryville tornado to fade. For some, like James Shelton, it feels like yesterday. He still gives thanks that a friend warned him to take cover in the basement of the diner next door just seconds before the tornado hit.
I don't know where my roof ended up, but it wasn't here.
All this metal, all this cinder block?
Oh yeah, it was down to the concrete floor. Yeah, there was nothing here.
What would have happened to you if you'd still been inside?
I wouldn't have been here today, that's for sure.
170-mile-per-hour winds not only wiped out Shelton's auto repair shop, the diner he took shelter in had a school bus thrown into it. Across the street, most Henryville high school students had already been sent home. About 40 students, along with remaining faculty and staff, took cover inside. Principal Kyle Lewis was a history teacher at the time, huddling with others under desks in the coach's office.
Like everyone always says, it sounded like a train coming through the building. Once it stopped, we walked out of the coach's office. The first staff member that walked out said, "Hey, the gym's gone."
No one at the school was injured. The anniversary of the storm continues to be remembered for the massive amounts of damage left behind, but also for what could have happened. James Shelton remembers the anxious hours it took with no phone service and blocked roads to find out his son was okay. You're looking around talking about this like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's still that fresh.
Some memories never leave.
That's for sure.
In Henryville, David Mattingly, Wave News.
Our thanks to David for marking the anniversary and getting to meet the people for whom this is still a pretty seminal life moment. Back for riders of TARC, closer, to the core of where the routes are. TARC riders, today was the official day to start paying little extra to ride buses around Louisville. The public transportation service raising those fare prices today and moving forward. This came after several public meetings. We know well into, the later part of last year, 2025, TARC making its case. It was trying to do this to avoid falling off a financial cliff, and it's a path they've been seeing down the road, but they felt they just couldn't kick the can any further down it. Some tickets, for example, students, seniors, now paying around 20 cents more to ride bigger ticket packages like the 30-day pass or the monthly pass that has a $25 increase. A reminder that the resource to have at your disposal, just to, again, read through all the different price increases depending on the kind of ticket that you would want if you were riding TARC. This is where we make sure to update all that information. Great to have wave3.com for you as a reference point to check in on, okay, what are those price increases? Or we're going to read much more about that. We'll link to that information in the article right here in the homepage and all of our different tabs on wave3.com. Well, this next bit we want to share with you is a reminder that it is National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. This particular cancer is the deadliest for people who are under 50 years old. It's the second deadliest overall, looking at the pretty sobering metrics. So doctors feel like this is the appropriate time to ask questions, check in with them, share your family history if it's something that they feel you should maybe get screened for a little younger than you otherwise would. Earlier today, our Myra Ansari actually sat down to talk to a doctor at Norton Healthcare, Dr. William Evans, pointing out colorectal cancer rates going up in younger adults. That's why current guidelines recommend starting screening at age 45 for an average risk individual, but just know that 45 is sort of a number that seems like it's a standard. Dr. Evans says the increase in cases you can link to a lot of things: poor diets, which are high in processed foods and sugar, if there's low fiber, if someone doesn't have a more active lifestyle, if it leans more toward the sedentary lifestyle, people struggling with obesity. In the part of the conversation I'm going to share with you here, it's Myra asking Dr. Evans about younger patients, and then some medical research Dr. Evans thinks may only further push or compel the updating of the screening guidelines to include even younger patients, and that he's advising, of course, you should get checked sooner rather than later.
I guess, has anything surprised you?
All right, let's see if we can restart that. If not, I'll come back here and play it again. Let's try that now.
I guess, has anything surprised you in your career, in your time in medicine when it comes to colon cancer? Have you seen someone extremely young dealing with this that you thought, wow, or a case of, thank goodness we did this, this screening just in time? Can you share any stories?
Yes, unfortunately, it is in my specialty. I take care of a lot of patients who have already been diagnosed with colon cancer, and complications associated with it. The colon cancer is spread and they have stage 4 metastatic disease. The biggest surprise is that the age that patients are being diagnosed is getting younger. And it's not just what I'm seeing, but actually in January of this year, the Journal of American Medical Association, came out with a very surprising article that colon cancer is now the #1 cause of cancer-related death in those under the age of 50. So when they looked at patients under the age of 50 since the 1990s, we've had a decrease in cancer deaths by 44% for all cancers like breast, leukemia, etc., but not colon cancer. Colon cancer has risen 1.1% since then. And so it is now higher than breast cancer as a cause of cancer-related death in those under 50. So it's this ongoing trend because of lifestyle, because of environment, that we're seeing colon cancer younger and younger.
So do you think that one day, I know that you said that this, the age it went from 50 to 45. we're trending in this direction. Do you see 20, 30 years down the road that we start screening sooner?
I think we will, yes. But instead of waiting until we get those recommendations or more data is coming out, I think the message would be for patients to, again, like I said, talk to their family. And if their family members, especially first-degree relatives, mom, dad, brother, sister, even grandparents, aunts, and uncles, if they've had colon polyps, to try to find out at what age they were diagnosed with those polyps, how many they had, maybe what size they are. I know that's a lot to get, but the more detail you have, what that does is it gives information to even somebody in their late 20s, in their 30s. Hey, I've had family members with polyps. Well, if that's the case, then we would think about screening you early, way before the age of 45.
Good to have that as a point of reference from experts like Dr. Evans. Of course, always best to consult with the care team, your doctors that you have in your life that you would trust most. If you'd like to hear much more, of this wider conversation Myra and Dr. Evans had, and have the full thing in context, a reminder of what those resources and questions and topics might be for you to consider for colorectal cancer awareness. Myra's full interview is up on the WAVE social media pages. So where you are connected with us on Facebook and X, Twitch, YouTube, all that, make sure to check in and you can find that. We're going to do after this break. I want to share the story with you here for the Wave News Extra live stream audience. Something we've been working on, some pretty remarkable young students who not that long ago wrapped up an unforgettable trip around Europe, in particular in France, Italy, and Vatican City. And the Vatican City part was where these students would tell you they had what felt like a pretty life-changing moment, getting to be in the audience with the Pope and just sharing part of the mission that they were wanting to now live with a program that is informing these kids about handling the pressures of day-to-day life and wanting to be, someone's ally if they're being bullied. So basically just knowing how to stand up against bullying and harassment. So we're going to play that for you after this break on Wave News Extra. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, everyone. Appreciate you staying with us as we are going to wind down tonight's edition of the live stream here in the Wave Now studio. And it's a reminder that, sometimes we're a little more pressed for time when you join us to tune in and want to get the information and the stories to you on the regular newscast. This allows, what we sometimes sit down and in our story writing can let the story, breathe, and you get to meet a few more people for whom the subject matter is still pretty important. So using that as the pretext to let you know, this is the story of a select group of Bardstown high schoolers who they will tell you they were transformed by a stunning trip abroad, and they wanted to commit even more to loving their own neighbors and their classmates. These are a few Bethlehem High School travelers, just weeks removed from giving the leader of the Roman Catholic Church a little gift basket of small treasures from right here in the Commonwealth. A window into a not so normal day for the student body at Bethlehem High School.
They're going to go all the way to the end and fill in the bleachers.
Faculty invited all classes into their auditorium to commemorate a National Catholic Schools Week delayed by winter weather. But it was also a moment to reflect on a special honor this school community can celebrate. This honor was actually a surprise, particularly for Kate Lancaster and Hayden Carney, who both didn't expect it until the morning they'd lined up with hundreds of other pilgrims in Rome, waiting for a chance to see Pope Leo XIV.
I'm like 6 months from becoming an adult, so obviously this life-changing experience, and it's my first time flying internationally, and the first time I happen to fly internationally is the first time I get to meet the Pope.
For those 2 hours, I was just so nervous. Like I just had so much like butterflies. My stomach was going crazy.
Lancaster, Carney, and dozens more students and chaperones were in the middle of a 2-week STAR Term course, curated in part by guidance counselor Dr. Natalie Corbett.
Really to broaden students' horizons, to open up to more opportunities for experiential learning and all outside the classroom.
Dr. Corbett explains how their itinerary blended interactions between history and faith. Notre Dame in Paris, fresh off its restoration after the damaging fire, or gazing at the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and wandering the ancient streets of Rome.
Walking on cobblestone streets, I've heard so many students talk about that.
But sitting here in Bethlehem High School's Media Center, Carney, Lancaster, and their peers we talked to all had a clear favorite moment of their European experience.
I didn't really know how to react when I first saw him. And then he came by in the end and like right in front of us, like reached out, touched him. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, surreal.
You could see whenever people sat down and they got to see him, they changed completely. It was different.
It was like he knew me, like he shook it with purpose. It wasn't like some random person. Yes. And I don't think I'll ever get to experience that type of feeling ever again.
In the midst of that, we're planning, our trip, and this wanted to offer Pope Leo a spiritual bouquet of like prayer intentions that support his prayer intentions.
Corbett made sure to snag the group's papal audience tickets. While most of the class still got a prime viewing spot, one lucky boy and girl would be chosen in a fair manner to hold the special golden tickets and give Pope Leo the carefully picked gift basket, including prayers, a letter from Archbishop Shelton Fobb, and a fashionable gift the students proudly wear walking from homerooms to the cafeteria back in Bardstown, a sweatshirt supporting the Kentucky Green Dot program, to teach high schoolers how to intervene when they see bullying or harassment against others.
Somebody that can be a green dot and like be a positive influence for the people you're around and make a safe, a safer environment.
The words on this garment reflect a gospel verse: love your neighbor as yourself. A calling made all the more real for these future young adults who want to live up to that virtue of service and compassion.
I go to church every Sunday and I do what I should do to be a good Catholic. It's just so life-changing. And I feel like when you come back, you almost like feel this need to do more and to do better.
Probably the most holy person on this planet. It just kind of made me realize, I need to not to take anything for granted, like just to, appreciate everything that God has given us, and just to, he made all of us. So need to appreciate them too.
A big thanks to everybody we met on that story. It's Dr. Corbett, to Kate Hayden, all the different STAR term students who made time out of their day just to hang out in the media center and to share what was a pretty cool story. They will tell you that for sure. It's something you can always go back to and, reread and kind of go through some of those other details and check back in here on the wave3.com homepage. I always tell you it's the best tool where in case you might have missed some of the stories we're airing on the newscast in real time, or again, it can all live on social media and the website, the best tools. And we can also send those push alerts when you sign up for those. If you haven't already downloaded the Wave News app or the Wave Weather app in that regard. So again, a reminder, we're going to be here working through the night. I hope you join us at 11. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett going to do the breakdown of what's going to be a really busy work week ahead. Beyond that, a busy 10-day forecast. The reporter Julie Richardson was working on if you popped in to see that preview of hopefully now some better outcomes, clearer answers, a more fitting tribute for the families at the Louisville Cemetery. Much more to discuss. And of course, any breaking news, we'll make sure to connect with you all on the different myriad ways that Wave News is there for you. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Jose Sosaya in the Wave Now studio. Looking at this work week, you might notice, for example, for the loyal viewers, Dawn will have a couple days off. I'll be filling in to sort of make sure those shows are taken care of and just filling in the meantime. So we'll see how much time I'll have in around this time of night to fill you in on those big stories. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do all that. Appreciate your time, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.